question that prompted applause. Yeah, there's got to be a more qualified female or person of color. Look at these guys, so pale and so penisy.
It's a crazy world, crazy world. Somebody's gotta have to save you. It's a crazy world. It's a crazy world. Somebody's gotta have to save you.
All right, people, it's September 12th, 2024. I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. As always, live streaming on Rumble, YouTube, and local. Share, subscribe, tap that notification bell if you have not. And I am joined by special co-host who needs no introduction at this point, my good friend Megyn Kelly. Megyn, how are you in this crazy world? You doing all right?
I'm fine. I'm ticked off. I'm so aggravated, but I'm fine.
I'm pretty sure that everyone's favorite Megyn Kelly is slightly ticked off occasional F-bomb Megyn Kelly. So I just want to open this up that let's let the language fly. I'm okay with demonetization.
No, that is not his favorite version. No.
Except your husband, maybe, especially privately, probably. All right. Well, I'm thrilled to have you on, and I want to obviously dissect some of what's gone on the last couple days about the debate and some of the issues and the personalities. But what I've been telling people is that the people themselves, Kamala Trump, it kind of is what it is, and the issues, they are what they are. But this is all about the narrative and the media narrative, and I think you've really been hitting that point home as well. So let's just dive in. I thought this was an interesting moment on this 3-on-1 debate that we saw on Tuesday night. Here's ABC News' David Muir, sparring with Trump over election fraud and whether he won the last election or lost the last election, et cetera.
We want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically. You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. These people are trying to get them to vote, and that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them Republican.
No judge looked at it.
And said
they
there was
said
no
we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality.
Megyn, I wanted to start with that clip because I was watching you on Twitter during the debate, and you and I both felt that this was a 3-on-1 and that ABC really dropped the ball on this. I don't think the question was out of line, but it seemed to me that the moderators were doing the work that Kamala Harris is supposed to do. You've moderated presidential debates. You've been in these things. Can you just talk a little bit about what the job is supposed to be and maybe how you would have done it differently or where you saw their weak points?
I mean, I'd like to think I would have done everything differently than what I saw on Tuesday night. It was a horrid display of attempted journalism. It was faux journalism. It was partisan hackery disguised as journalism. And David Muir there is a perfect example. His fact check was an opinion.
Right, exactly.
I didn't detect the sarcasm. Who gives a shit what you detected? Who died and made you king of discerning what was in Trump's head? Mm-hmm. It's not up to you to offer your opinion. That's the kind of remark you go home and you say to your significant other. Yeah, on the debate stage, I didn't detect a note of sarcasm. What are you saying? You know we can hear you. Your quiet voice is coming out of your mouth. It was so off, that comment alone. But we could go on because there were so many instances in which he tried to fact check Trump in a totally inappropriate way. The thing about the cats in Springfield, Ohio was another instance. His fact check was, well, we spoke to the city manager and he said no verifiable claims. That's not a fact check. What that city manager has been saying is we were not able to verify these claims about the pets. That's not a refutation. That's a he said, they said, and it's not for David Muir to be the trier of fact in the moment from the debate stage. If anything, That's for Kamala Harris to try to say, right? Like the city manager says it didn't happen. Then Trump can say, well, I saw the people on TV. David Muir kept pulling a Candy Crowley over and over and over. I will settle this critical dispute right here for the audience. I will be the final trier of fact. No one elected him to do that. No one appointed him. No one asked him to do that. And therefore, he kept throwing his gravitas. And yes, as the anchor and the moderator of the debate, you have some. And the audience is trusting you to some extent behind one candidate only. And now, look, I don't agree with that approach at all. But if you're going to do it, you have to do it to both of them.
Right,
You
right.
absolutely must be as tough on her with your little fact checks as you are on him. And guess how many he did of Kamala Harris? Here, I did this on my show today. I'll do it for you too. I'm going to throw the soundbite of David Muir's Kamala Harris fact checks. Here we go.
You didn't even have to press a button. You didn't have to tell anybody to click anything. So that actually was my next question. The fact that you would think, and maybe we are just so now down the rabbit hole with these people, there's nothing left for them to hide. But you would think that they would at least pretend to be impartial. Now, you and I don't hide our
them
political
pretending.
opinions.
That's what they would. They think they did do that. That's what's so crazy.
God,
Keep
that's
going,
even
Dave.
more. No. That's even more depressing. So maybe that's really where they are, where we are all at. That is them pretending, and that was the best that they could genuinely do.
Yes. Well, I remember when I was at NBC and I had a conversation with one of the executives behind the scenes about some piece we were working on, and I said, I don't think this is very balanced. Like, I think we need another voice from the other side. That was, of course, the Fox motto, fair and balanced. And he said, yeah, we don't really think we need balance. We're more like we're fair and accurate. And so that's how they view it. Just as long as what we're saying is correct, we don't really need any balance. And so they didn't care to get other voices into this piece, maybe from the right, maybe offering a different perspective on the controversy of the day. And that is the ABC mentality too. Like, we are the arbiters of what is factual. We will decide the dispute between the Springfield residents who are on Facebook, on Twitter, on camera, at the town hall meeting. It's not one guy making some weird claims. I don't know what the truth is, Dave, nor would I ever try to decide it affirmatively on camera at a presidential debate. But that's the position ABC News sees itself in. And Muir is a direct descendant of Charlie Gibson, Diane Sawyer. This was their approach too. Who could forget Charlie Gibson with the glasses? Here.
Oh, yeah.
Got my reading glasses. I'm going to give you the visual. The glasses down
at
the end of the nose.
Yes.
When he was dealing with Sarah Palin in particular. Why have they made me sit across from this pleb? And then this was Charlie Gibson. And that's ABC News. That's Charlie Gibson. And it's David Muir, who is better looking and hides it much better than the others because he lets the story selection and the reporting and the content of the reports generally do his dirty work for him. But on Tuesday night, it was all him and his equally guilty compatriot, Linsey Davis, was showing their bias full frontal. That's what we got on Tuesday night. And it was just as dirty and X-rated as you would expect.
America, listen up. The world's getting more unpredictable by the day. Political insanity, rumors of civil war, an unstable stock market, and now the looming threat of a new global health emergency. Did you know there's a bird flu summit coming this October? It's eerily reminiscent of Event 201 that foreshadowed the COVID pandemic. And get this, the first topic on the agenda is mass fatality management planning. If that doesn't send chills down your spine, I don't know what would. But here's the good news. You don't have to be scared if you're prepared. The wellness company created the medical emergency kit, and every home in America should have at least one of these. They're packed with life-saving meds like ivermectin, amoxicillin, and even a Z-Pack. And it's all backed by experts like Dr. Peter McCullough. Imagine this, no more frantic searches for a doctor, no more emergency waiting rooms, just a few clicks, and this kit is delivered right to your front door. In times like these, having the medical emergency kit is not just a luxury, it's a necessity. Protect your family by preparing now. Head over to twc.health/Rubin and use code Rubin to save $45. Don't wait until it's too late. Act now, take control, and ensure you're protected against whatever comes next. That's twc.health/Rubin. Use code Rubin to save $45. Free shipping. And now back to me. like the TV pro you are, you're giving me the perfect segue, because I want to show one clip of Linsey Davis, because you're perfectly laying out the skewed version of the quote-unquote fact-checking, and it wasn't really fact-checking in the first place. But it was also the way they asked questions, where every question asked to Trump was sort of an attack or I would say, a sideways move to get him to a certain place. And it was very different with Kamala Harris. Listen to this question that she asked Trump.
Were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times.
Megyn, did you catch the key word there right at the beginning of the question? Kill Roe v. Wade, like that's one part of this, right? Of course. And then the fact that they repeatedly, we didn't even get to it, repeatedly implied that he's for a national abortion ban, which he keeps saying he's not for. You'd think that maybe they would say that to Kamala every time she says it, but I take it you're not that surprised.
You know, never. On the issue of abortion, every single member of the media is pro-abortion. Every single one. This is one of their coveted things. They love to hit Republicans for it, and they never, ever, ever hit the other candidates from the right. There was some generic question to her like, would you put in any limits? That's compare that to the way they worded that question to Trump, right? You actually could go through and pull up the stats of the number of abortions that have been performed in the third trimester under the Roe regime.
Yes.
You actually could get into the specifics of, yes, indeed, babies are being born alive after botched abortions and left to suffer to death on the table in America, including in Minnesota, Tim Walz's home state, somebody who's on the Democratic ticket. You could craft a question to hit her from the right on that and be equally tough on both sides. That question to Trump could have stood, and then you'd have to hit her just as hard coming at it from her vulnerable side, which is she's too permissive. But the one to Kamala was like, any limitations? And with Trump, it was, look at this, you did this, and then the reversal, and then they say you can't be trusted, and right? And let's just take a look at how that same anchor decided to raise Kamala Harris's flip-flops. She raised in a generic question that mentioned a couple of flip-flops, the fracking issue.
Oh, we've got that in a moment.
You're going to bring up fracking.
Wait, we've got that. Oh, you know what? Let's just jump ahead.
No,
it's okay.
Go ahead.
Well, let me throw to that clip because that'll set you up perfectly. So let's jump to that.
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah. And
Fracking? She's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police. She's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar?
All right, so there's a couple things there. Trump obviously misspoke one quick word there. He meant to say she was for defund the police. And then on the rest of it, it's basically, and obviously we edited in the fracking issue, so take it from
19.
Yeah.
Okay, so the way to ask that question was to drill down, pardon the pun, on the fracking issue. And it wouldn't have required that much homework because she has spoken to this a couple of times recently. It came up in the Dana Bash interview, the only interview Kamala Harris has done, so we know that Linsey Davis has seen it. And that is the interview in which she told the lie. She was confronted by Dana saying, you apparently have switched your position on fracking, because in 19 you said you wanted to ban it, and then some rando from your campaign put out some statement not actually signed by you saying you no longer felt that way. So which is it? And Kamala Harris lied to Dana Bash and said, I've been very clear that I'm not in favor of a fracking ban. I made that very clear on the debate stage in 20, and I've not been in favor of that. And no acknowledgement of her position in 19 or the flip-flop. And Dana Bash hadn't done her homework, which was a fail. She should have known, because before you ask a question of a candidate in an interview that big, like Dana had, or a presidential debate, you researched all their positions on fracking. She's had an evolving position on fracking. Get me everything she said about fracking. Certainly within the last 60 days, I want to see everything she said. And she failed to go back and check what she had said at that VP debate. So Dana was caught off guard and wasn't able to fact check her live on the fact that at that 2020 debate with Pence, what she said was not a reversal of her commitment to ban fracking that she'd made 6 months earlier. It was an espousal of Joe Biden's commitment not to ban fracking. What she said on the debate stage was Joe Biden will not ban fracking. And so Dana Bash let her get away with saying, I made my position very clear, my position, that I am not in favor of banning fracking. She got away with it with CNN. So now you are the ABC News anchor, and you get another fresh bite at this apple on the presidential debate stage. A normal journalist who is not just a partisan hack is salivating at this opportunity. This is fun as a real journalist who's there to illuminate issues and show the voters who somebody is. You say, I've got her. I'm going to say, you told CNN that you'd always had this position. You claimed that you made it clear on the debate stage in 2020. In fact, what you said there was that it was Joe Biden's position not to ban fracking. All you've ever said on the record, on camera, is that you want to do it, madam. Which is it, right? You could work on the landing. But that's where she should have gone. So what happens? She lets her commit the same sin again. She got away with it again. And here's point 2. She also offered more nonsense that she offered to Dana Bash that wasn't fact-checked on CNN and wasn't fact-checked on ABC, which was, she said, as vice president, because you're president of the Senate, I cast the deciding vote to pass the Inflation Reduction Act, a bullshit named act, that opened up more leases for fracking. And when she said it on CNN, I thought, oh, that's interesting. Is that true? Let's fact check that. Let's actually look into that. Again, Dana Bash should have known because she knew she was going there, but she failed. And the truth is about those leases on fracking, yes, something was inserted in the Inflation Reduction Act on which they were trying to get Republican votes. And as soon as they passed it, months later, they removed that permit and stopped all the leases for the fracking based on their conclusion that the environmental impact had not been adequately studied. Back to their actual position, which is fracking is bad for climate change and shouldn't be done. Who's called her out on that? Not CNN, not ABC, and that Linsey Davis knew this was going to come up because unlike Bash, she had the preview 2 weeks ago, and she either didn't do her homework or she wasn't interested. That's why she lumped it in with those other 2 flip-flops and then just did a when she dodged to get out of it.
As the government continues to print money limitlessly, inflation has destroyed the savings and wealth of so many Americans. We need a way to protect our family and our finances from inflation and government printing. You can do this with Bitcoin because it has a fixed supply. It's an inflation-resistant and censorship-resistant tool. Guys, this is where River Financial comes in. River is a U.S.-based client-first financial institution providing financial products built on Bitcoin. River is an app for clients to buy and sell Bitcoin. They're headquartered here in the U.S. and have raised over $50 million in venture funding. Their focus is on security and client service, which has elevated River to the most trusted Bitcoin-only brand. Unlike many crypto exchanges, River holds all client Bitcoin securely in a one-to-one reserve and has the best-in-class cold storage. River's clients get easy access to a U.S.-based client services team, which can be reached via phone, chat, or email. Clients can purchase Bitcoin with 0 fees when they have a recurring buy setup, $1 cost averaging. Just go over to river.com/Rubin Report today and get started. Again, that's river.com/Rubin Report. And now back to me. I'm glad you're mentioning the Dana Bash interview because I was off the grid for that. Sage brought me back and I've watched the whole thing and I've seen the clips over and over. I'm sure you know about the fact that it was 41 minutes of recorded time and I believe 18 minutes aired. Do you think someone should be asking Dana Bash about that, or what the agreement was that CNN had with the Kamala Harris campaign, et cetera, as to where those minutes are?
No, I'm not concerned by that because CNN has denied that any interview content was removed at all. And I do understand that when I watched it, at least there was plenty of padding in there. Legit? Plenty of padding, to try to make it look longer than it was because they wanted to show an hour on their television show and they didn't have that much content. So it would be extraordinary for CNN to explicitly lie that they did not take out any interview whatsoever. Even in this disgusting business, that would be, an extreme act of dishonesty. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they mean what they said.
Wow, Megyn Kelly giving mainstream media the benefit of the doubt. I think we broke some news here. I do want to mention one other thing as we're bashing mainstream media, and they deserve to be bashed. There was an article about your show in Mediaite that you had. This is absolutely incredible. You had 116.8 million views in July, which outstripped NBC News, which had 78 million, as well as CBS News, which has had 83 million. I should note that Rubin Report did have 92.3 million, so we beat them too. But I am glad to say that Megyn Kelly beat us. And that really does show the disconnect between what's going on at these debates and what could be going on if they would kind of give up and let a whole bunch of us get in there, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I feel a sense of sadness. I feel a sense of kind of betrayal about the mainstream so-called media. They're not mainstream at all.
Right.
Why did we have a question on climate change and 2 questions on 2020 election integrity and January 6th and not one question about what we're doing to our children in this so-called transgender affirming care lane? Nothing about the detransitioners, the chopping off of body parts. It's so dark to me. Nothing about the young girls who just had all their rights stripped by the Biden administration in Title IX. Nothing. They couldn't find 60 seconds to ask about these girls. It's so wrong because they don't want to piss off the trans community. They only want the girls to suck it up and for the kids to be mutilated. And beyond that, they don't much care. All right, so that's that. But I'm sad because a strong, robust, relatively free press is an important thing. The media does break big stories, and they're a window into a lot of stories that we might not otherwise cover or know about, right? Look at Spotlight and what happened with the Catholic Church scandal in Boston. We still need a real press. It's not going to be where you or I go for our news, but they need to be out there, especially when covering non-political issues. They still can do some good. And when you see this kind of fail and this level of bias, it's just totally disheartening. I have felt like a darkness about it all day. It's not that you and I aren't out there and others like us as an antidote. It's just that's a huge behemoth. And last night had 53, or Tuesday night, 53 million, 57 million views. A huge audience. And that absolutely could influence an election. I don't think it's likely. I think people are pretty dug in and they've made up their minds about these two. And there was not a slam the ball in the end zone kind of moment for her, and certainly not for him. But it's risky. It was risky for him to go on there and do it. And, to quote a line from Animal House after some young kid gives his car over to those derelicts, "You fucked up. You trusted us." Right? And that's what the media is saying to Trump today.
Megyn, I swear to God, I swear on my life that if they would do a better job and it cost me views and it cost me fame or whatever the hell this is, I would be fine with that because it would be much better for the country, and I'm fairly certain that you would agree with that premise. I want to just ask you one other thing about Kamala in general, because to me she's now become the perfect avatar for what the Democrats are. They chose her. It is completely unclear what she believes in other than seems to believe in power. She's reversing every position, the fakeness of the smile and everything. So this image that we have of her here, this was the constant image that I think sums her up perfectly. It's so inauthentic. How is it possible, Megyn, that a billionaire with orange skin and the craziest hair anyone's ever seen still is more authentic than any of these Democrats? How is that possible?
I don't know. Trigger on that photo. I'm still dealing with what I just saw there. Trump, he was right. He did manage to squeeze that into one answer. You know who I am.
Yeah.
You know, you have no questions who I am. And he's exactly right. I could have heard that more. I would have liked to have heard that more. And I would have liked to have heard more about what a fake she is, what a phony she is, how you don't know who she is or how she's going to vote. She's a nonstop chameleon. I don't know if it's true of all Democrats. I'm just trying to think back. Yes, Hillary Clinton was a fake. Barack Obama was definitely a fake. I mean, he was another avatar for whatever the left wanted to believe. I guess it's because they're so far left, some of these folks, they have to pretend. They can't take the stage and really show us who they are because they know it's too radical. And that's why she had to say to Dana Bash, my values haven't changed, if you know what I'm saying. I'm with you. I've got to say all this shit just to get elected. And that's what Bernie Sanders said.
And that's what
Bernie
Sanders
said, right, this
that's
week.
Exactly what he said.
Holding the dress up, saying, we all know she's just got to say that stuff in order to get elected. So that's what they have to do. I think, you know, in Trump's case, one of the reasons why he in particular can be so authentic is he is moderate. He's never been deeply conservative. That's why no one thought he would win the nomination back in 2016. Everybody thought it would be Ted Cruz or somebody like that who you know is genuinely pro-life. Trump is this transactional moderate who probably isn't pro-life to this day. I think he just doesn't care anymore. If anything, he's probably pro-choice. He was for partial birth abortion as a grown man in his 40s. So what are the odds of him totally being pro? But he governed as a pro-lifer, and that was enough for the right. I just think that the left has too much to hide for them to have that true authenticity.
Yeah, and I think that's why to your point on Trump and abortion, I think that's why Linsey Davis was hitting him from both the left and the right, because there's a way to do that. I want to jump to one other thing, because, you know, Andrew Breitbart, of course, said that politics is downstream from culture. And you've been talking a bit about Taylor Swift and what's going on over here with her and her football boyfriend. So, yes, we'll show you the New York Times headline here. Right after the debate, she had an Instagram post ready. Taylor Swift endorses Kamala Harris. Before we get to the nuts and bolts on that, I saw this, Megyn. Check this out on as it pertains to climate change. This is from the N-Wokeness Twitter account. Taylor Swift emits 8,205 tons of CO2 in a year. An average American emits 16. And of course, climate change was one of the things she mentioned in her reasoning for supporting Kamala Harris. My take on this is Taylor Swift did not write the statement. I don't know that she cares about politics or knows who any of these people are. I think this is much more an attack on a lot of the dads of America, that you get all of the young girls who love Taylor Swift to kind of dad comes home from work and suddenly he has to be assaulted by them because they support Donald Trump, and it can just hack away again at what's going on in people's homes. Guys, let me talk to you about Rumble Premium for a moment. When Rumble first started back in 2013, they built the platform for small creators. They didn't censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or censor opinions around COVID, yet here we are. Facebook admitted that they fell to pressure from the Biden and Harris administration. Rumble did not. They held the line. They are attacked daily for giving us a voice to talk directly to you. They are attacked in corporate media. They are attacked by governments like France. They are attacked from brand advertisers who refuse to work with them. Corporate America is fighting to remove speech. Rumble is fighting to keep it. Rumble won't survive with brand advertisers alone. They don't get much of that rev. Watching our show on Rumble is the most they can ask from you. But if you really believe in this fight and you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. Join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering $10 off with the promo code Rubin when you purchase an annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium/Rubin and use code Rubin. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now is the time to join Rumble Premium. If you don't have the means, we're just happy if you'll watch us right here on Rumble.
This is why I'm so mad about this. And this is why I went off on her last night. There's a little girl right now in maybe Wisconsin, some Midwestern state, whose parents are going through a divorce. This little girl has acne and is coming into puberty and into her adult female body and is feeling uncomfortable. And this little girl may be on the spectrum. That is a typical profile of a child who goes down the gender rabbit hole, who maybe isn't minded enough at home because the parents are in the midst of a divorce, et cetera. And she finds herself on Reddit for 3 hours a day or one of these darker websites. And this trans ideology takes hold of her in a dangerous and pernicious way. And the parents aren't around to realize just how far she's gone. And this little girl is going to declare, I think I'm a boy, because the internet will sell it to her as the solution to all of the problems I just listed. None of those problems is real. It's just that you're trans. That's how this works. And they will love bomb her into believing this is true. And she will go to her parents and say, I want you to put me on puberty blockers into cross-sex hormones, and I want so-called top surgery. It's so benign sounding. Yes, it's a double mastectomy where I'll have tubes coming out of me. I'll never be able to breastfeed a child, etc. But I want it because I'm secretly a boy. And if they give it to her, she will be sterile for life. She will never breastfeed a child. She will never achieve sexual orgasm. And this girl is 13 and wants to make these decisions for herself. And when those parents say no to her, this little girl will be able to walk across the border and go to Minnesota, thanks to Tim Walz. And a court will seize custody of her from her Wisconsin parents and will funnel her into the Minnesota system, which will give her the puberty blockers, the cross-sex hormones, and will happily cut off her breasts and chop up her genitals in order to, quote, make her a boy. And the reason that they will do that is because of Kamala Harris's running mate, and her policies are exactly the same as his. And this little girl may do all of this after one day, or in advance of one day voting for the ticket that did all of this. And when she hits 18 and realizes she was just going through normal adolescent strife, but she no longer has her breasts, and she has an Adam's apple, and she sounds like a man, and she looks like a man, and forgive me, but where a normal female clitoris should be, she has something looking bizarre and like a mini penis, because that's what happens. She's going to have Taylor Swift to blame, because supporting that ticket is a blessing on everything I just listed. And so she is no heroine to young girls. She's a danger to them. If she's going to take the power she has, thanks to her singing and her songs about her shitty love life and inability to actually meet somebody who will treat her right, and turn it into a manipulation of young girls on the, in her own words, LGBTQ front, then shame on her. And shame on her boyfriend, lover, whatever he is, Travis Kelce, who was similarly irresponsible in pushing the Pfizer vaccine to his young, teenaged male fans without a thought for who would be around to help them when their heart-scarring myocarditis popped up as a result of it. These two will be in her Rhode Island mansion, which is the most beautiful, biggest, whitest house you've ever seen on a cliff overlooking the Atlantic, sipping their drinks and saying, let them eat cake. They won't be there to help that girl clean up her life or to help that boy's parents when they grieve his loss from this devastating heart condition. They will just be wrapping themselves in sanctimony about how open and inclusive they were. And this is why I ended my bit on my show that night with the following: F you. F you, Taylor Swift. That's how I feel. I'm so angry about this. If she just came out and said, I'm voting for Kamala Harris because I think she's the better leader, whatever. To specifically cite Tim Walz and his stance on the trans issue is disgusting.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think what you saw right there is an exact example of why Megyn Kelly's show had more views than NBC News and CBS News last July, and I have no doubt in August as well. I think it was also an example of why she's not part of mainstream media anymore, and I think it's also an example of why they will never let her host a debate, but you are doing much better stuff than that, my friend. I'll leave you with this. You want to make a prediction for the election, or should we just end the communication right here?
No, I'm not going there. Though I will say, you know, for the record, when I predicted that Trump would beat Biden, that one time you made me make a prediction, that kind of came true.
Look, you're 1 for 1 as far as doing it with me. So, you know, I thought maybe we could try it. Love you, Megyn. Thank you.